Hey, it's Kevin Yates here from kevinryates.com, and I'm back again just to talk real quickly about what you're doing. What you're doing with your time, what you're doing with your days. Is what you're doing moving you closer to your dream, or is it taking you further away from your dream? And I know we all have dreams inside of us. We all have all those aspirations about who we're going to become, the things that we're going to do, and all those things that we want, but you've got to really look at things, because I've seen this all the time. I've been guilty of it myself. I did it for years. I spent years of my life unhappy in jobs that I had, feeling like I was just in these dead-end jobs, and I wasn't making the money I wanted, and I didn't have the success that I wanted, and nothing in my life was working. It wasn't going, where I imagined I'd be going, and it was just so frustrating. And yet, I wasn't looking at what I was doing with my time. I mean, the time that I wasn't spending working or sleeping, where I actually had free time, I was doing the things that were actually moving me further away from the dream that I had, rather than moving me closer toward it. So in my free time, like when I'd have lunch breaks, if I had lunch breaks, and what I'd be doing, I'd just be sitting around, I'd eat my lunch and everything, and then I'd go to sleep, or I would just be listening to the radio, mindlessly, I wasn't doing anything, right? Or I'd spend all my time chit-chatting on my breaks with coworkers who we would just be talking about all the BS that was going on, how we hated the job, or, we were going to get out, one day we were going to do this and that, and it was just wasted time. I spent time around people who were giving me all the reasons. They were supporting my reasons for my failures. Telling me, oh yeah, you're right, how hard it is to go out and do what you want. Yeah, you could do that if it wasn't for this, or if it wasn't for the fact that you don't have money, or if it wasn't for the fact that, whatever the case may be. It was like all the excuses. And when you hang around a bunch of people who justify the excuses for you to fail, that's all you're going to get is more failure, right? And that's what I was doing, and that's what you got to look at, is how are you spending your time? And it took me a long time. It took me years before I woke up to the fact that I had to do something. I had to start moving myself closer to my dream. And so, what I started doing was I started changing my habits. That was the biggest thing. I had to absolutely change my habits. I had to spend my time in more productive ways. And especially when I didn't have a lot of time. I mean, when you're working 12 hours a day, and I had a commute that was 2-hour commute, to and from work. I mean, I'm a classic example of somebody who doesn't have time to do anything. But I had to find a way, because nobody was going to give it to me. Nobody was going to do it for me. So what I started doing was I started stealing time. I started changing my habits to where I was getting up 2 hours early every morning to work on what I had to work on. I was building my website, I was setting up my blog, I was writing, I was doing videos. I would get to work early as well, so that I could, if I had a video to do or some writing to do, or I was brainstorming, I had time to do it before I started work. My breaks and my lunches were spent doing the same thing. I was always working on what I was wanting to do, doing at least one thing to move me in that direction. When I came home from work, I was working for 2 hours again in the evening, because I wanted it that bad. I stopped hanging around all those people who were bringing me down, who were not achieving the things in life that they wanted, and were kind of pulling me down into that. I stopped letting them steal my energy. I stopped letting them borrow my presence. So what I did was I would go outside during my lunch break into my car by myself, where I could work on everything. I couldn't be around in the break room and be around spending my time. Not because I thought I was any better than anybody or anything like that, but because I had a vision for myself. I had a vision for my life. And the only way I could move myself in that direction was to get away from the negativity that was pulling me away from that vision. So I started stealing time. I changed my habits. And I also, the biggest thing was I had to change my mindset. My whole self-concept was completely backwards. Because as much as I said I wanted all these things, the problem was that I didn't have a self-concept. When I say self-concept, I mean two things. I didn't have a self-image, and I didn't have the self-talk, the dialogue with myself, that to where I could see myself and where I talk to myself as if I was on my way to achieving my dream, as if I was realizing that dream. I didn't have that concept. My whole image of myself was being broke, being unsuccessful, being unhappy, being powerless, being the victim, fighting against the powers of the world and losing all the time. That was my image of how I saw myself. And I talked to myself the same way. I talked to myself. I called myself a loser. I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, man, you're never going to make it. You're a failure. I mean, I would say that stuff to myself when I looked at myself in the mirror. What the hell is wrong with you? And all of that stuff. I had to absolutely change that all around and create the self-concept that supported moving me in the direction of what I wanted in my life. I couldn't just talk about it. I had to start being about it. I had to start taking the steps to get there. And I'm not perfect. I'm not exactly where I want to be. But when I look back over the years of my life, I am so much more further down the road and so much more closer to my dream than I ever was before. And had I never taken those steps and changed the mindset and changed my habits and done these little things daily, then I would be right now, right where I was. I wouldn't be in any different of a place than I was all those years ago. So that's the same thing that I'm saying to you with this message is just to make sure that be aware of how you're spending your time and make sure that the things that you're doing are taking you closer towards your dream rather than pulling you further away from it. All right, so that's the take-home message here today. And go after that. Start looking at how you're spending your time. If you're not spending your time moving towards your dream, then you're spending your time moving further away from it. So it's time to stop moving further away from it and time to start moving closer toward it. Change your mindset, change your habits, and change whatever else needs to be changed to move you closer towards your dream. I'll be talking to you soon. Have a great day.